Anytime you can get 1/18 scale tech equipment, it's a good thing.
New for 96. With your hosts, Kevin McCauley and Chris Nguyen.
So I have one, but I have it with the roof
There's
down.
one with the roof up.
Yeah, and there's one with the roof up, and they cannot sell that one because
No one wants that.
no one wants that. The roof is not part of the design.
No.
Literally, I think they admitted that it's not part of the design. It's just there for weatherproofing.
Yeah.
And barely that, so.
Oh, you know what's the worst roof? This is like not a diecast thing, but the 550 Maranello Barchetta
Yeah?
has like the weirdest roof.
What
Like
is the roof? Oh, wait, yeah.
the
okay.
soft top.
Yeah.
It's so weird because if you look at the 550 Barchetta, it's got this big, like, it's a really beautiful sculpted, like, not tonneau. Basically, the trunk goes all the way up to the headrest.
Yeah.
It's like to the roll bars.
Yeah.
And there's no, like, holes or anything in it for a roof to bolt into. So this roof, like, just goes straight down and, like, hugs the roll bar.
Oh my god!
It's so bizarre.
I remember seeing that. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
really. It's very like optimistic early 2000s design.
I mean, again, it's like the Speedster because the 550 Barchetta was very limited. So
Yeah.
it was like, okay, we're not going to do it. This isn't a permanent solution. This is just like
Yeah.
basically, and they even said like, don't drive this over like 80 because the roof will fly off.
yeah, yeah.
But then I remember diving into the weird world of companies making hard tops for those cars. And they are extremely
Aftermarket
weird.
ones. I remember
Yes.
you sending me these photos.
Yeah.
And they were unfortunate.
We probably cover those on the pod, but we're just repeating ourselves,
Yeah.
so it's fine.
No, that car was not designed for a roof covering of any
No.
kind. So
It's such a beautiful car.
Yeah.
I love those.
no, they're very pretty.
Yeah.
No doubt. We should see if there is a diecast model of that.
Oh, yeah.
Man, that really delved down.
Yes.
We've delved down because in the podcast studio, which is my kitchen island, essentially, I used to have like 12 models here, but that was during COVID when I didn't have like visitors over, except for Kevin. And so now that I have visitors over, I've cleared the table of models, but I've arranged a row of thematic cars as he has requested, except that
I request this
is
every time.
But this is perhaps like the easiest theme.
Yes.
So
I'm
they're
not
just-
complaining, though.
Yeah, they're all Porsche turbos. I've got a 996 turbo, 993 turbo, 964 turbo, and a 930.
It's
So-
pretty good.
And then a straggler GT3, 996 GT3. So 0.1, by the way, best looking. If not, I know, unpopular opinion that this is the better 996 GT3. And to be fair, I'm inexperienced as far as why the 0.1 is lesser than the 0.2, but I prefer the looks because it looks like a GT1 or has a GT1 face.
The spoiler, Will and I were texting before I came over here about
Yeah.
this, and he sent me a picture of the spoiler, and this element was like tilted.
Oh,
And he was like, was this adjustable this whole time? I was like,
Oh, on a 0.1?
On a 0.1, this wing.
Kevin is pointing at like the double-decker wing on a GT3, 996 GT3.
I wish I could remember the term that like Grant Larson had for this wing because
Yeah.
it was so amusing, like such a great nickname for this spoiler, and I don't know what it was, and I'll
don't
never
know.
remember.
But that's crazy that that's adjustable.
Yeah, you see the lines.
Yeah, I
where
do see the lines.
Anyway,
So that'll maybe that's how you can tell like a kit car apart from the real thing, is if the real wing is not like solid like fiberglass or something.
yeah,
Yeah. So and I hate that there's so many like kit cars essentially, or people have just like assembled their own version of a GT3 look that at a glance I can't immediately tell sometimes.
well, that was they sold the Aero kit.
Yeah.
Are you talking about
no,
the
they
Aero
did.
kit?
No, just yeah, exactly that. Like I can't tell like an actual GT3 from like a C2 with like a kit on it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, the Aero kit. I hate the Aero kit though. That's the thing. I know
But this
you
is
like
the
it.
Aero kit.
I know. The thing is, I don't. For some reason, I have GT3 eyes though. Like, and I like see this, and it's perfect on this car. But I hate it when it's just like a tailless C2, but it just has like the skirts or something. I
Right.
just don't think that looks good.
Yeah.
It's too much. Especially because a 996 is so slim and light looking. Like, I don't think the skirts do any favors.
But this has the skirts.
I know, but again, GT3 eyes.
Okay.
It looks great here, of course. I even hate these wheels on every other application.
Yes.
But in the GT3, these look good.
The point two wheels are better.
Yeah,
The
point
point
two
two
wheels
is
are good.
just
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, I know, I agree. Yeah,
Overall.
it is better. I just like I like the vintage fascia.
No,
of,
I do too.
Yeah,
I do
the
too.
point ones. But yeah, like
Well,
yeah.
and it's a landmark. This was the first GT3,
Yeah.
which is a cool thing. Now
Yeah.
like that going back, it's been 20 years of this pretty incredible product line.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, it has been 20 years.
Yeah,
That's
they
kinda
had
crazy.
they had the 20th anniversary in 2019.
Whoa.
This time 2 years ago was
Oh,
the
yeah.
20th anniversary.
Was there
And,
an event?
I don't know, but they did some like photo shoots and they brought the 996.1 GT3 to Monterey
Ooh,
for just to have around.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I
with
get.
the Stuttgart plates and everything on it.
Oh, nice.
It's very cool.
Yeah. I'm always curious about that. Show and display. I've only like recently learned that show and display allows you 1,500 miles a year of driving, which is pretty adequate for like a car so special that you're not allowed to have it here except under this rule.
Yeah.
So for 1,500 miles, I mean, you're probably never going to, it's probably valuable enough to where you're never going to drive it more than that anyways.
Sure.
So that's just kind of interesting. I always assumed that show and display was like, oh, you can move it to and from like a facility or something or an event.
Right.
But it's pretty, I mean, I don't know if that's lax, but that seems pretty decent
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
agree.
as that goes. Anyways, this is another episode of New for 1/18th scale, apparently. Dear God. Apologies for that conversation as it gets tedious. Kevin and I are enthusiasts of the models, as we've discussed in
We
previous
dabbled in
episodes.
real
We've
cars
dabbled,
also.
yeah.
I
And
think
over
it was-
COVID, I went crazy and bought like 35 of them.
Jesus.
So I've tapered that off, except for the 3 or 4 that I have coming.
And the ones that you send me every day, like, hey, you should buy this.
Yes, except for that. So
Yes.
this is how we collect cars. Not really, though. They're interesting.
They are. Yeah, I love them.
Yeah, they're ships in a bottle. They're not things that you talk about at parties. I mean, like if there's one thing, like at a party when you bring up like that you're a car enthusiast, like you can hear the other person's chair scooting away from you, and then take that to another level and talk about like model cars, and it is like
Not those model cars, only good ones. The ones I have, these nice ones.
yes,
That's what
exactly
you-
that. Yeah.
That's what you do.
I don't think the thing that you have to add in like I don't think you understand. Yeah. So that's the point
Yeah.
when like things get interesting. Yeah. So anyways, yeah. So how are you doing, Kevin?
I'm good. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing okay. You've been on a couple of trips lately.
Yes.
Yeah, but I guess you've requested this, and I have here on this like sheet of paper here, as you've requested. You would like to make an announcement.
Yes. To all the people that are worried about me, that have written in all the calls, people are concerned about my obsession with the Subaru Forester and the styling of these vehicles. And I just want to let everyone out there know that I'm okay. I'm fine. But I'm not okay. I'm not okay with this. The Forester, they look the same. Subaru has redesigned the Forester multiple times. Not enough people are talking about this. Like, there's a
No.
lot of boring cars. Like, Camrys are boring, whatever. But like, you look at a 2010 Camry and a 2020 Camry, and it's like, oh, well, I can see because of styling trends and how it just adheres to kind of things, and the fact that I saw those 10 years
Yeah.
ago and I see these now,
Yeah.
you kind of osmosis gain. That's the new Camry. That's the old Camry. Foresters doesn't work that way.
It does
The
not
old
work that
one
way.
looks new. The new one looks old. They're the same.
Yeah,
They're the
the-
same car.
You're just buying whatever is the current year.
I was in Oregon. That's the problem.
Oh my god,
They're
that's
everywhere.
like the source.
It's where they come out of the earth there.
Yep.
It's a volcanic, there's a break, there's a fissure,
Yeah.
a fissure in the earth.
Birthed like a
Foresters,
baby hippo.
They come out, there's no stopping them.
Yeah.
There's no stopping them.
Yep.
There are between 5 and 11 generations of Subaru Foresters,
Yes.
and no one is talking about this.
No one is. And I know that you submitted this as a story to ABC's 2020. and they rejected it. What with it?
They told me there's a chance.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll see.
I had a Forester press car in 2013. And it looks like the one that's on sale now. And this isn't just me being glib. Like, it's the same shape.
Yeah.
The glass is the same shape. And I know that, like, Golson says that I'm wrong, and maybe he's right. But even if it's a new chassis, like, the fact that they designed it to be the same twice, like, that's
Yes,
not...
that's true. Well, he noticed that the badging were several inches off on subsequent models from the one that you were pointing out. So
Yes.
that is the designation for the generation. So I'll have you know.
It's maddening. Like, I know people say, like, oh, Porsches don't change or whatever. But, like, enough people, like, enough idiots like us stare at these Porsches and look at them and obsess over them. And it's like, it's okay. Whatever. No one's looking at Foresters.
I agree with you. You
No
know what?
one
They're
looks
like
at
the
them.
clouds. We're just like, oh, there's a Forester. We don't notice it's what were Chrysler? That's the only way I can identify clouds, by the Chryslers.
Oh, yeah, the Cirrus, the
Cirrus,
Cumulus.
the Cumulus, Stratus, whatever. So we just look at them at clouds. But
Yeah.
different generation of Foresters, they're like those clouds. There are differences. We just don't know what they are. They all look the same.
No, we don't have the technology to process the differences.
No, it's true. And honestly, you have brought up an important thing because now it has become a thing.
Yeah, as
And
Daniel put it, I have too many
Even
things.
though,
but
yeah,
this is the
Daniel
only thing
Sloan,
that
Daniel
matters.
Sloan has criticized you for having too many things to be you about.
Fair.
I agree. This is a better one than the no Corollas ever washed tweet.
Or TC hatch handles,
Or
whatever. I'm
TC
fully into this. I
hatch
think this
handles.
is a big thing.
Yeah.
We were in Oregon, and we noticed these, and we made a rule that we couldn't look at Wikipedia. And we had to identify all the Foresters. And the thing that was funny is that for like multiple days, Daniel and I were in complete disagreement about which one was older and newer.
Oh my God.
He thought that the one from 2009 was the one from like 2015. And it's hard to disprove that. It's hard to disprove it.
It is a good exercise. Like, listener, right now, picture in your mind a Forester. Which generation is it? Which generation is it? The only identifiable one is probably the first generation. That one is unique in that it was actually like a cartoon wagon.
Okay, here's the thing.
Yes.
That is true.
Yes.
It got an LCI that looks like a different generation. So when people say there's 5 generations of Subarus, people tell me this. I don't buy it. I think there's 6 because there's like a facelift to that first gen that looks like a different gen. Yeah. Completely.
How's it different?
I don't know. I can't describe it because it's a Forester.
But it's called a Gen 2?
It's a facelift. Like it is ostensibly people that's the real 5G conspiracy is that there's 5 generations of Foresters.
Yep.
The people that adhere to this 5 generations thing, they think that this is the first gen, and I think that the first gen is actually 2 gens. It's the opposite of the Viper problem.
Oh my God.
Where the Viper, they think there's 11 gens. There's 3.
Yeah, no, this is sounding less like a conspiracy and more like the truth.
I think this goes right to the top.
My God. That is amazing. Also, that's about all anyone can speak of as far as Foresters go.
This is the most anyone has ever spoken about the Forester, and that includes people that buy them.
Yeah.
And they don't look at them.
No, they don't look at it.
They don't look at them.
Well, yeah, because we've talked about this before, but a Subaru is appealing because it's a Subaru, and that's about it. Like, they assume that four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive is somehow a benefit over buying an all-wheel drive RAV4 or something. It is somehow premium or special.
Well, and people put it in the category of it's the same reliability as a Honda or Toyota, but it's more interesting. So I'll get the Subaru, and it's it is not in that
wrong.
category.
No, it is not at all. Oh my God. Yeah. So do not do that. And my brother and sister-in-law who live in Denver, which is also another mecca for Subarus. The last time I was there, I rented a Subaru Outback. I mean, that was literally the car at Enterprise. So, and that car, by the way, it was I assume a brand new one or something, and it had a pinstripe. And I had never noticed this before, but our friend of the pod, Will Pierce, had mentioned that there are hand-drawn pinstripes. Mm-hmm. However, I would assume that would be for, as an art, to fine automobiles, or even just like, I don't know. Anyways, this one looked like it was drawn on by marker. It was literally wavy, and it had like, the tip, when you finish a line with a marker, that's what it looked like. So someone had at a dealer, like, oh, I want the
Yeah.
pinstripe, or no one actually says that, but like they had charged for the pinstripe, and some, tech went over and some
I mean,
porter.
that's American car dealerships are just like a scourge of
my
the
God.
earth.
Yeah, truly though. But anyways, so my brother and sister-in-law like texted me. I was like, "Hey, we're thinking about getting a Forester." And I did immediately say, and this was I think before your whole thing. I was like, "I don't think you should get a Forester. Like if you're going to spend like X amount of money, there are just so many more interesting cars that you could buy, and they're at the very least vaguely interested in like a driving experience, and I'm thinking that there are other vehicles. However, you have poo-pooed
Do not let them
some
get
of
an
my
X1
options.
or an Acura.
They were just looking at a slightly above average. I say like as in terms of just like quality. So like a slightly premium experience. And I agree with you and your suggestion. I also suggested a CX-5, but they're hard to find right now, and like brand new cars. So they were looking at pre-owned like BMW X1s, X3s, and I agree with you that they are contemptible vehicles, but only when they are brand new. I think that as a used vehicle, they're fine. Like you at least get like the latest BMW tech. You don't really care about the driving experience, like as insofar as like driving dynamics go. And so it just is a premium, slightly more engaging asterisk. And so that might be slightly more ideal. Okay, but I'll tell you what, redeeming, I've convinced them, even though we have agreed that the E91, so the last car that I had, was the last good BMW wagon. As if you don't really care about the specifics of a driving experience or the finer points, I guess, whatever, I suggested an F31, so a 3 Series wagon, and they were into the idea, which I think is a better option than getting a CUV, because I think that would be boring.
Yeah. Was there, like, was there an SUV that was based on like the E91 that lasted?
Yes, the
maybe-
X1.
But which X1?
The first gen X1, it was horrid. It literally, it was like the Forester in that, maybe it was lifted just slightly, but it was just like the cabin was stretched upwards.
Yeah.
And the parts were interchangeable. In fact, like if you wanted like wagon bits, wagon parts, you could interchange them with I don't know what the model designation was, but that first gen X1. So, but that car was hideous. So
That was the one, and I've repeated this, but like, that was the one that BMW was like, here's the X1. It's debuting in China. We're only going to sell this in China. Like, don't worry, we're not shoveling this out to America.
Yeah.
And then it was like 18 months later, it's like, all right, introducing
Yeah.
the same X1
as
in
it
America.
turns out, in America, we're also interested in like aspirational near luxury like experiences. So
Yes. Okay, let's get off of this topic. I would say
yeah.
an Acura would be better.
yeah, maybe they test drove an RDX, which maybe.
I don't know what that is.
I think like a BMW would maybe feel a little bit more special. Again, just like marginally so, but a wagon would be better than any of those things. So I would say an F31 would be the better option for that.
Sure.
So, anyways, oh, and much to your chagrin, I was sending them
Do not.
M Sport.
Oh, okay. I don't care about that. I
F31s.
thought you were going to tell them we had a fucking Land Cruiser. I was going to have a shit fit.
No, well, they would, but they're outrageously priced at the moment. So, even though Kevin like hates this because I've convinced like multiple people to get Land Cruisers, including a friend recently who bought a 200 series. So, and he is satisfied with
All right, we're going to
his
cut this
reliable
out. We're
choice.
cutting this out.
Anyways, so Kevin, you've been on some trips lately.
Yeah, I went to Oregon.
You
Let me
went to
tell you about
Oregon?
the Foresters.
Oh my
No, I'm just
God,
kidding.
yeah.
I went to the Corvette Museum, which was in Kentucky. I drove to Connecticut with my dad. We went to the Corvette Museum, went to the Lane Museum, which had a cool Radwood display, which was awesome to see.
Yeah. Wait, so what did you see there?
At the Lane?
Yeah.
The like that the Alpine, God, what's the cool Alpine? The Alpine, like the
The 110?
No, the like 80s, 90s one.
Oh, the 310.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah.
A310. Yeah, that was super cool. And they had the Alpha like SZ like Zagato,
Ooh, yeah.
and with as friend of the show, well, not friend of the show, but friend of us online, Auntie in Finland
Yeah.
pointed out it had like a like crazy multicolored steering wheel that I didn't even notice. It was
Ooh.
like a Momo. It was like a Momo Benetton steering wheel.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was
That's pretty
super
cool.
cool. But yeah, the coolest car there was in like the overflow garage, and it was that Renault Sport Spider. It was
Oh,
so cool.
I
It was
saw a
like the
picture of that, yeah.
90s. I remembered it from the Hot Cars.
Oh, the sheets.
There was a Hot Cars sheet, and it was like the coolest thing. And of course, I don't think they ever sold it outside of France, and it was like a spec racer. But
that's cool.
it was like it looked as wide as a Viper.
Yeah.
Like I always thought of it as this tiny, tiny car, and it was like not huge, but it
Yeah.
was super wide. And
It was
just insanely cool.
windshieldless, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Just like a race car.
Yeah.
And just really cool.
That is cool.
And I've never seen one, so that was neat.
got
And
to
then,
see it.
Then I was in Connecticut for a few days, and I visited FCP Euro, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, awesome to see their headquarters and the race cars
I-
and the race team and all of that.
I love that they actually have a headquarter where they do things.
They have events there. They have lockers, like people can pick up parts there.
Yeah.
And soon they're gonna have it so people can
'Cause
pick up parts overnight
I ass-
outside
I
in the lockers.
assume that every place that I order from online is just like an office with a PO box,
Yeah.
and they just drop ship everything.
They
But
are like they really try to not be that. Like they
Yeah.
go to great lengths to not be that.
Yeah.
And to have, they're constantly figuring out what their most popular items are and stocking them there so they can ship them out. And
Yeah.
then like the less popular things, things do get drop shipped, but they're trying to not just be like Amazon of car parts
Yeah.
like this. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a really cool operation, really good people, and got to push buttons in that
Yeah.
Mercedes AMG GT4.
Ooh, oh, yeah, the race car.
The GT race car, which was cool. Yeah, it was awesome. And then I went to Oregon where I drove with Daniel in the M3 Baru
it's
wagon.
up. It's running.
It's running. It's rebuilt.
My God.
It's great. So I don't know. We'll put a link to it, but I did a video about the car.
Good video.
There's going to be an article about it, or 2 articles soon, hopefully, when this runs. I think
It's good enough to be interrupted by YouTube ads. So you should watch.
it's a really special car.
It is.
It looks cool. It worked flawlessly.
Yeah.
And
And as
except for the gas smell when we were at altitude, because
Well,
I think they took out something out of like the EGR or something
It's
with the
fine.
fuel.
Yeah.
But
But as a reminder, so we spoke about this
Yes.
car likely at the beginning of the year, maybe the end of 2020. And Kevin had taken a trip. And actually, we've probably spoken about this at least twice before.
yeah, multiple times. In January 2019, Daniel bought this. Friend of the show, frequent guest, Daniel Sloan. He bought a BMW E46 wagon that had an M3 swap, all-wheel drive, and I went with him to Colorado
Bolt-on
to get it.
fenders, the
Bolt-on
whole thing.
fenders. We drove it from Denver, Glen Shelley, Glen Ross. We drove it from Denver to Portland, no issues.
Yeah.
He started converting it into a rally car. It took 16 months.
Yes.
We took it on the first trip in November of last year, and the motor blew up after one day.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. This
it
was
had,
like
it had rod bearing failure.
It
And-
was what a just kind of like convergence of so many things where
Yeah.
you were traveling during COVID.
Yes.
And then like the thing that is like the one catastrophic failure point on E46 M3s happened.
Yeah.
On
well,
this road trip.
not this was unique.
Sure. Yeah,
was
this is an
unique
oil pan.
because of the oil pan.
Yeah.
It was just not a very good. The swap wasn't done
Yeah.
quite very well. Like the oil pan on the all-wheel drive BMWs has an axle running through
Yeah.
it. So there's to get the oil pump to fit. It was like grinding and literally digging out aluminum.
Yeah.
Like little gears were digging out aluminum, and that was going into the oil tubes and stuff and slowly clogging it up.
Yeah.
Like the Daniel's mechanic, Ram Emanuel, said that if like it had been steel shavings, it would have immediately like seized the motor.
Oh my
but
goodness.
because it was aluminum, it like was so soft, it was such fine powder that
Yeah.
it just built
just
up
didn't
and built
jam
up
up.
over thousands of miles.
Yeah.
And then it went, and the rod bearings failed, and we had I don't remember if we talked about it on here, but we had a harrowing escape back.
We did talk about it,
Okay.
and yeah, it was a harrowing escape where you like.
Like during COVID, like I was like Daniel, like it was like basically we have no other options, but also I don't want to ride in a tow truck during COVID for 7 hours.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So.
But it worked out.
It worked
You're
out.
alive. The
I'm
car is
alive.
now alive again.
The car is now alive. So, went to Oregon. We drove it. We went kind of a perimeter of Oregon, which was great. And we went to like the desert and canyons and mountains and
so
everything.
scenic.
It was incredible. And this was the week before the big heat wave.
Yeah.
In the West, so it was still hot, but not as hot. And then we went to the beach the last day just to like get more photos. And of course,
Yeah.
I know how the beach out there is always
Yep.
whitewashed with fog and stuff, but
Yeah.
it was cool.
And like it being an all-wheel drive, like high-powered vehicle, like it makes for such great video montaging, just because like you're just constantly just throwing up dirt.
Yeah, the dirt looks extremely cool for
Yeah.
photos and videos. And Daniel is like a really good driver.
He
I mean,
went to a rally school.
Daniel's always been a really good driver, but now like he went to the Dirtfish school, and like I mean he learned a lot and was really enthusiastic and could apply it with this car,
Yeah.
and it drives. You know, I think it drives better than the Subarus that he was instructed in because
Yeah.
it doesn't have the turbo lag. It's a little more predictable.
Yeah.
Not to mention,
There is some commentary as to why he just didn't buy like a WRX or something.
yes, that is covered in the video, and I
Yeah.
didn't even get to all the reasons because we talked to Rahm Emanuel about it, and he, commented. He knew specific things about because we interviewed Chris Rahm, Daniel's mechanic. We interviewed
Yeah.
him, not the guy who built the engine the first time. He's the guy who rebuilt it.
Yeah.
The second time.
And we call him Rahm Emanuel because he looks like Rahm Emanuel,
He doesn't
former
look
chief
like
of staff.
No, he doesn't look like him at all. It's just the name Rahm.
I know. Okay, so
Was
and-
that an attempt at a joke?
Yeah, you didn't take my suggestion too in your video, like to have an audio quote from Rahm, but put Rahm Emanuel's photo,
File
still photo. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have gotten a lot more dislikes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the car was. What was I talking about?
No, it
Before
worked.
you
So
rudely
it, oh my
interrupted
God.
me. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like Daniel like learned a lot at the Dirtfish school. I mean, you could just see in the driving where previously when we drove off road. Like it's kind of like how I would approach it, which I don't know what I'm doing. So it's like you
Yeah.
get to a corner and it's like I guess I will enter it slow and then power out and try
Yeah.
to slide the car that way. And Daniel has a completely different way of driving.
Yeah.
On dirt now with now that he knows the proper thing, and it's like all about balancing the weight and
Momentum.
upsetting. No, it's like upsetting the car, like upsetting the weight distribution before the corner,
Yeah.
and like tossing it in, and you're basically rotating the car before you've entered the
Whoa.
corner.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you drive straight out.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's the real benefit of the all-wheel drive is it's going to understeer when you do that, but you want that because you've already made the turn.
Yeah. God,
So-
I'd be so bad at that. I would just
me too.
drive straight off the cliff.
No. When I was like Daniel tried to walk me through it, and I'm like, okay, like the road is not wide enough for me to feel confidence, and also it's kind of like the F1 car on when Top Gear, when Richard Hammond drove a Formula
Yeah.
One car, like
You can't go fast enough.
20 years ago. Yeah, exactly. Like you have to be going at a certain speed for this to work. And the same thing with this. Like if you're gonna basically pop the clutch, or no,
Yeah.
I think you pop the clutch to, and you. No, not pop the clutch. Sorry. You've got to kind of charge into the corner and then
Yeah.
lift, and then you turn right after you lift, and that lift changes the weight balance. So it's like, but I'm not confident to.
Is it a Scandi flick?
Not quite, but I'm not confident enough to like charge into the corner.
Yeah.
And then lift off and then have it turn. So
Yeah.
it's really cool.
It's a dance.
I would love to do a school like that.
Yeah.
But I'm just very happy to like take the pictures and the video and get the stuff. Like
Yeah.
I don't need to do the corner 15
No,
times.
it was good.
But
They
Daniel
would
did
look-
some great driving in the video that
Yeah.
you can see, and it came out awesome. I was really
It's good.
proud of the thing.
Very GIF worthy. There are many like GIFs too, and I'm a GIFer, so RG.
It's gonna be hard on if we do another trip. If we do a trip in like the E46 coupe,
Yeah.
like it's like we're so limited on where we can take pictures now. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like Daniel will always drive any car on like a gravel road or
Yeah.
something, but it's just like we're gonna be so limited to like the roads or near the road and
Yeah.
stuff. Because this was just anywhere we wanted to go, we could just go with this car, and
Yeah.
it truly is a unique proposition. I covered it in the video, but he wanted an off-road car, so he bought the Land Rover. But it's like, no, I still want to drive fast,
Yeah.
and so he built this car, and there's nothing like it where it's like you get a
No.
BMW interior and a fast M3 experience, but you can drive it anywhere.
His experience or his explanation in the video of the purpose of it makes 100% sense because no body on frame like truck thing.
Yeah.
Like it's just fine. It's a to B thing. It literally is an A to B as far as like it'll get you over terrain, but it just drives fine. It drives like a truck.
Right.
And this is different in that like it's engaging, it's sporty, like and you don't have to worry about like the fact that you're going over rough terrain. And so you can go exploring and have fun getting there.
Yeah.
It's not just like puttering down a highway and that's it. And then you have fun when you get there. And you have fun the whole time.
It looks cool covered in dirt and dust and bugs.
Yeah. Even though it's Orient blue.
Yeah, it's Orient blue.
Okay.
It's very dark. And in
very
my
dark.
pictures, because I tend to warm things up, it becomes black.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah. And you also went on another trip just recently.
Yes, I went to the Ferrari racing days
Yeah.
at Indianapolis. So that was my first time at Indy Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
It was a cool event where they had Ferrari Challenge. They had the XX program.
Yeah.
Spelled PROGRAMME.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep going. Keep going.
Anyway, but
Yeah.
the FXX program, the XX program, they had those cars, which is cool. Which I remember when those came out, when the FXX came out, and people were like, "Oh, I pay $10 million to have this car that Ferrari keeps."
Yeah.
But it is a cool thing because the original ones were these Enzos that were like the next evolution of the Enzo, track only, and you bought into this program, and Ferrari flies the car around the world and says, "Okay, come to Italy and race it, or come
Yeah.
come to Germany and race it, or
Yeah.
drive it on the track, and then we'll use the data to develop the next supercars."
Yeah.
And that's what this is. They've been doing it this whole time, and some of the early FXXs have like 40 like stickers on the windshield from all the events they've done for the last 12
cool.
or 14 years.
I didn't know people actually did it. So
Yeah, I think I'm sure there's a couple that have no events and no
Yeah.
miles, and people are just going to flip it. But I think the whole point is that you come to this thing, you get instruction by like
Yeah.
superb racers and, real racing drivers, and you get this like insane like red carpet Ferrari experience, and you're contributing to the next cars, and
Yeah.
they're learning things and using that data. Plus you have this amazing car. So there's not a lot of benefit to having it and not doing
Yeah.
the things.
No, that's great
know?
because I assume like there might be a contingency who buys it just because it makes you feel like a race car driver for like a couple of
Or
events.
if you're like, I'm a collector and I have all these cars like mint in box, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, this is not one of those.
No,
Or at
yeah.
and so now they're on to the FXXK, which is the LaFerrari version, and there
Yeah.
was like literally like 25 of those.
Yeah.
Which was cool. The Formula One cars, they had F2003 GA and F2004
Yeah.
V10s. I mean, they sounded amazing on the straight.
Yeah.
And they were cool. And I drove the F8 Tributo around Indianapolis and took some photos with it and everything. And we talked about this a little bit off air, but it was a cool car. This is the, they would not like this to be the statement, but I mean, this is like the third evolution of the 458, basically.
Yeah.
It is rooted in that.
It's a third generation off of the 458. So
That's what I said.
yeah. Oh no, but yeah, it's not well, yeah, exactly that. So but it's based off of it. So it is an evolution of, but not necessarily a completely brand new car.
Right. I mean, it's like 2 heavy facelifts in from the 458,
Mhm.
and but it is. I think it's a very compelling looking car. It was very fun to shoot, and it was, I mean, very fast to drive. I
Yeah.
couldn't really use a lot of what it. I didn't really get a sense of what it was about, but I liked the thing with the paddles was the most interesting part
Yeah.
of it, because you know the and
I
I've
feel-
driven another Ferrari with the paddles, but I didn't spend as much time with this one. I was constantly like reversing and putting it in neutral and park and
Yeah.
first to position the car for photos. So I got really familiar with it, and you use the paddles to get into neutral. Use the paddle to go from reverse to first.
Yeah.
So you're
Using the paddles, like they make the paddles like a functional thing that
exactly.
you have to interact with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like embedded in the experience, whereas like you get into a Porsche and the paddles, like this just feels like cosplay.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretending I'm shifting.
Yeah,
like I'm
'cause the car
being,
could otherwise do it
The
by
car
itself.
would do it itself,
Yeah.
and this is just a prop.
Yeah.
So to have it be integrated so well into the drive experience was really cool, and I like that. And it kind of, shows the Ferrari. I mean, it kind of shows, like, if nothing else, like they've been doing these transmissions for
Yeah.
20 years now. Obviously, this is a dual clutch before it was F1, but
Yeah.
it kind of seems like the real deal. So
Yeah.
I like that, and it was cool. I was thinking, I think I was texting, or I was thinking about McLaren today,
Yeah.
and this is just a tangent. My opinion of McLaren has just gone way down ever since the I-45 rally.
Yeah. Oh god. Well, that was just something else.
But
well,
that's the-
well, that's the
that's-
problem. Is that like, well, to be fair, like it'd be the same with Ferrari as well. But when like capital T, the capital L lifestyle,
Yeah.
like enters into the realm, like everything would be great. These brands would be great if it wasn't for the people who buy them. And
But I think I don't know. I think the Ferrari demographic is like older, like white-haired guys that don't drive the cars fast. And with McLaren, it's like, no, I'm
I
young,
think
and
it's
my nightclub is
there might be
hopping.
two things to that, like how we were making fun of AMG owners.
Yes.
Like I think there's a contingency where AMG owners, it is a person who owns a nightclub. A Ferrari owner could also be a person who owns a chain of nightclubs. So I think there are two like lifestyle components to that.
Sure.
But I agree with you that maybe there's a more of an enthusiast aspect.
I mean, like if I look at like the McLaren brand, I guess, or the lineup or whatever, it's
Yeah.
like, at least with the Ferrari, with the Ferrari with the F8, you would never have to explain what it is.
Yeah.
And you would never have to apologize for the company.
Sure.
Probably.
Yeah.
And I feel like with McLaren, both of those things are not true.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. Well, at least on the apologizing aspect. Oh yeah, no, I guess maybe McLaren isn't.
But I mean, the
Immediately
thing with the
recognizable.
lineup and all the numbers and all the things,
Right.
and like this is the fast version of this car.
Right.
Well, this is the slow version of the race car of this car.
Sure.
They all have 3 different numbers
Right.
that are stupid.
Yeah.
And it's just, and then, and there's another special edition coming out now. And it's like, I mean, I know that there's a lot of criticism of like all the special editions, but it's not special.
Right.
When you had, if we talk about like the quote unquote hypercars, whatever, like P1, 918, LaFerrari, when they came out, it was each of these companies like pushing the limit, like doing the
Yeah.
craziest thing they could do. Just
Yeah.
pulling out all the stops to do this big thing.
Yeah.
So I understand why they had to maybe come up with a new term, whatever. But now it's like, every year it's like McLaren's like, this is our most special car, and it's like this is
Right.
clearly a like kitted version of the thing you already
Yes,
sell, and
yeah,
also it's not limited.
Been the same
and it's-
car or
and
essentially,
it's-
yeah.
I mean, even if it's new, it's just it's not like it's $1 million car because you decided to price it that way. It's not
Sure.
it's not the $1
To
million
be fair,
car.
that,
like
that would be just nearly any like
Yes.
exotic car manufacturer at this point. But
absolutely, yeah. I know we talked about like the Pagani pricing and everything, but I mean
Yeah.
the McLaren Elva and the Sabre and the Senna, like these things are, I mean, they're almost embarrassing.
yeah, well, oh yeah, I would agree with that as well. Because I don't necessarily know who they're for. I mean, I guess it is just like maybe status.
We're so in the weeds right now because like there are all these things that no one even knows what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's like McLaren came out with another
Yeah.
special thing, another super duper special thing, and it's like no one even knows. Like no one has seen any of them.
Right. Yeah.
And no one cares. And I know, but I don't care.
Yeah. No, exactly that. And honestly, there are points where I just kind of blur over like certain special models too, just because I don't understand the purpose of it necessarily. But I guess it's another year, another model maybe is a
Right.
thing. So as that goes, but like they had good intentions from the start. But yeah, it's gone by the wayside, I suppose. But speaking of Italian cars, back to
Oh yes.
Italian cars.
Yes.
A few episodes ago, we were speaking of another special cars, perhaps. Fiat Pandas.
The Pandas.
The Pandas, yeah. So, friend of the pod, friend of ours, had purchased 2 Fiat Pandas a couple of months ago, 3 months ago maybe.
Yeah, well,
2 or 3 months ago.
He bought them in January.
Yeah, from
he
Italy.
told us he was buying them from Italy, and then in April, it's like, well, they're here,
Yep.
and you and I went to. I just wrote about all this, so I know it was
Yeah.
a freight forwarding facility. So
Ooh.
it was not customs. It was not a like.
Oh, this was just like the P.O. box to pick up things?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
And we picked up the Pandas.
Yeah.
We saw them for the first time.
We did.
Drove them right on 610.
These are the, so these are 2, what year are they?
1993 Fiat Panda
93.
4x4 Country Clubs.
Country Club trim.
Country Club trim.
Don't know what that actually gets you, but
Teal gets you more teal.
gets you more teal.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're a hoot to drive. There's no other way to describe them.
50 horsepower.
Yeah.
1,800 pounds.
1,800
Four-wheel
pounds.
drive, built by
Lifted.
Steyr Poots from G-Wagon.
Steyr Puke.
Steyr Puke.
Puke.
Steyr Puke.
Puke. Same manufacturers of the original G, at least the 4x4 system.
And the current G.
And the current G, yeah.
And the Supra. I mean, the company's been, I think, like, broken up a few times.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of the continuity there is, but
Yeah.
I mean, like, Steyr still exists.
Yeah.
Magnus Steyr.
I
And
kind of
they
wish
built
they
the
all.
Supra and like the Z4 and stuff.
I wish they all had the Steyr Puke badges, but this
Yeah.
one did not have that. But
Right,
yeah,
that
this
was just
system
the
was done.
Steyr Puke edition.
Yeah. So, anyway, so that was a few months ago that he picked them up. He's been modifying, just kind of bringing them up to par to keep one and to sell the other one on Bring a Trailer. And just this last week, what month is this? September, August, July. Oh my God, it's July.
Fuck.
I don't know what month it is. Anyways, in mid-July, it went up for auction.
Yes.
And it did fairly well. And Kevin just wrote a story for it that will be published very soon.
We hope.
We hope. Explaining the process, etc. Because it is kind of like a mystery. I think, generally speaking, our crowd of automotive enthusiasts do find them to be interesting. Like they are
Absolutely.
interesting.
They're interesting cars.
They're interesting cars.
We
and-
are at like peak Panda awareness in America
Yeah.
because of social media and stuff, but
And
no Panda availability.
Yeah.
Because if you want one, you have to wait 3 months.
I don't know what the equivalent in the US would be. Like, as far as like a cheap, cheery 90s car that is venerable as this one is, as far as like an off-roader, maybe like a Corolla All-Track or something, or a Geo Tracker. Or,
Yeah, I was thinking like a Tracker or a Samurai maybe, but this is
Yeah.
more of a city car, and that's like more rugged. I mean, this is like a
Yeah.
city hatchback first with
It's
the
just-
4-wheel drive system.
Yeah, it's like a Golf-sized hatchback 2-door with it lifted slightly 4x4 system and the car just doesn't give up. It just like keeps going. And considering that there's no tach, we were definitely redlining it at every single shift. So, but it was fine. It
Yeah.
was happy to rev to whatever the red line is. It's a mystery red line.
Yes.
I mean, like it's 50 horsepower, so I don't really know, but I mean, you have to redline
I looked
it.
up the 0 to 60, and like the number is between like 16 and 17
oh my
seconds.
God, I love that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and the top speed I think was like 83, and I was like, oh, I was getting close to that. I think.
So we were still being honked at on Houston
I was
freeways.
so I was like I must have gotten a lucky break because I was in a break in traffic where I was on the left lane on 610.
Yeah.
Going like a little over 100 like kilometers. It
Yeah.
was like 60, 65, and I was not having anyone behind me because it was just like slow trucks around. So I was actually held up by the car in front of me
Oh,
for
okay.
most of my drive on
Yeah.
610. So it was rather pleasant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I included the article when Tom encouraged me to see what it would do, but it like really got dicey above like a certain speed, like above 110. It was like no.
I do feel like that's just like you were not ever gonna explode that car. Like there's just no like maybe if you
But
just
it's
like,
not that. But it was just like it just felt dodgy. Like the tires, the grip, like it felt floaty and everything. Like at
to be fair,
70 miles an hour.
To be fair, we picked
didn't.
this up essentially from the port.
Yes.
Direct from
Tires unknown.
Tires unknown. Like we didn't even check tire pressure. We just like got on the road, and immediately went on like near LA like freeways, like 10 lanes.
Yeah.
People are just like flying by at 90 miles an hour, and we're in these things that can barely do 90 miles an hour, and
They can't do 90
they
miles
can't do
an hour.
90 miles an hour. No safety system. Like you are your crumple zone. And like it was still fun. It was adventurous that was the case. But yeah, no, it was still fun. And anyway, so the car went up, one of them went up for auction just recently. And I thought actually it did pretty well.
I thought so too.
I know that our friend Tom was hoping that it would go a little bit further, but it was record breaking on Bring a Trailer. And we were speaking about this actually just before the podcast, where I think that it is such a neat and interesting experience for the price that it went at, which was about $14,000.
It was like 13.1.
Yeah, 13 and change, and then add on
sure.
whatever. And but I would say that is you're buying with that price. There might be other experiences that are worth about that. This car, I think it was really fun. It was really interesting. And if I had to have one in a collection, I think absolutely that makes sense, paying about $13,000 for it.
Yeah, we talked about this before, but I think, and this is not to like, this is hypothetical number. This is not like how many cars Tom's has, but it is great as like a seventh car.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah.
I mean, you would not want this to be your fun car.
Yeah,
when you have a
exactly.
daily and this, you would not necessarily want this to be
you have
like
your
you couldn't have
CUV,
this be
and then
your
you
daily.
have this other thing.
You couldn't have this be your daily, but when you've got the other thing, when you have a fast car and a luxury car and an off-roader or whatever, like this is a totally unique experience.
It is absolutely a unique experience, and it is just that it feels like a perfect like place on the shelf as far as like experiences go.
Right. Well, I mean, and you and I, like, we drove the Lancia Fulvia. It was not the HF or anything.
Yeah.
But like, it's comparable where it's like
slow car fast.
It's just like, oh, it's this thing. It makes a pretty good sound. It's
does.
like the
one-
Fulvia makes a great sound. This car, it's like a scaled down Fulvia where it's just like around town. It's just like you just drive it fast, you just rev the hell out of it, like you just go, you're aware of everything, you've got great visibility, and it's like nothing else. And so you get a bit of that experience like the Fulvia, just scaled down a little bit.
It's truly like an Italian experience, much like the Fulvia was, where like you don't need a big engine, it doesn't beat really fast, you just literally are just maxing it out all the time.
The Fulvia just made such a cool sound. It was just it was a great sense of occasion.
It wasn't a fast car, it was like a 1.3, and you were essentially redlining every time, and it made such a good sound, and you're barely keeping up with traffic, but like it was so fun. It was so small in the greenhouse and everything. It just like added to the experience. Like you felt like you're going way faster than you actually were.
Yeah.
So
that's all you need.
And that's just it. Also, if you're going to get a cheap, cheery car, it should be Italian.
Yes.
And it is absolutely worth whatever it is that fills that experience for you. But that is it. That's just it. Like I'm completely sold on the idea of like, I mean, I've been sold on slow car fast, but there is something about slow car fast in the Italian sense that is just so much more dramatic.
Well, and also like when we say slow car fast, like we talk about like our 911s and stuff, but this is like truly slow.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like
There's slow car fast, and it's like, oh, Miata. It's like, no, this is so much slower.
No, this is like deep into the double digits to 60. So, like you need some distance. That's part of the fun too. Is just kind of like figuring out how much like timing you need in order to safely merge onto like a freeway, say for instance.
Yeah, I think you just wouldn't drive on a freeway in normal circumstances.
Yeah, even though we immediately hopped on, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. As that goes.
We had a support vehicle.
I know.
Which,
yeah.
well, you didn't.
And like, like I reveled in the occasions where people recognized what they actually were, the Pandas.
Mm-hmm.
When we were shooting the mud shots. So we just went to like an empty lot where it was just particularly muddy. Kevin shot some kind of off-road shots for auction and posterity, and like this guy in a F10 M5 stopped by, like, and he was just like dumbfounded, like, where'd you get some Pandas? Like, that's cool, whatever. And
I hate that I noticed it had like the different wheels.
I
like
did
the
too.
comp
It was
wheels
not
or some bullshit.
No,
I don't know.
yeah,
I hate
it was the worst
hate
form of that car, and that's already not an entirely great car to begin with. But
No.
But
posthumous M5 after the M5 died.
I tell you what, like, as far as like that, the owner of that type of car would stop by to like admire a punch. Like we like combined didn't even register like a quarter of the horsepower that he had in his car. And then of course he also, by the way, while we were shooting the photos, like zoomed by like 4 or 5 times at full blast in whatever weird exhaust that he has that did not enhance the sound of the car. But
You're talking about the
anyways,
purple tune?
yes. So as that goes, but yeah, no, they're absolutely fun. So one remains in the collection, and I'm glad that one does, because that fits his collection very perfectly.
Yeah, no, it's great. And
Yeah.
he said we could borrow it anytime.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, that makes me that car actually makes me want to find a cheap 2-door SUV. Like a long time ago, I wanted to get a 2-door G-Wagon of some kind, and now they're increasing in value more than like I would appreciate them. And so I started looking at, mini Pajeros or there are like small kind of offshoot 2-door Land Cruisers that are not as valuable, but I'm kind of into the idea of like a small off-roader of some kind. I don't know where I would use it or what part of my life it would
I think
fulfill,
of the Panda as like a little fun hatch first and an off-roader second.
Sure, yeah. Well, something you can just kind of like ring out, like a small engine, something that you just don't care that you're running to redline because you have to run it to redline because it's so slow. And I'm kind of into the idea of that. So I was just saying like an off-roader just because why not have that capability? Because I don't know what the alternative would be to a Panda.
I don't know.
But like a mini Pajero or a like Land Cruiser Prado RX, which is like a teeny tiny, it's like it's the GX, but 2-door. But before
Still not small. Still probably like 4,000 pounds,
before the
5,000
GX that we
pounds.
know it. Anyways, it's a smaller
Okay.
thing. I don't know. Anyways, doesn't matter. But yeah, so there we have it.
Yeah.
And I think that might be a podcast. So
Okay.
thanks for listening to us banter.
Yeah.
Do follow us.
It has been a while,
It has been a second.
but
Yeah,
I think it's worth it.
I think it's worth
I
it.
think everyone will agree.
I think so. Yeah. Best one yet. It's gonna get the seal.
Yeah.
Your video on YouTube for the wagon
Yes.
got I called it a short film.
Yes.
And so it's not gonna be submitted to Cannes. Carns. It's gonna get the wreaths.
Yes.
And I made you a wreath that said pretty good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's gonna arbitrarily slap that on the cover art of the video.
In this episode.
This episode also, wreath, pretty good. Yeah. Or like I would like one that just says like okay. So yeah. Anyways, do follow us on Instagram at New496. Twitter, all the same.
Yes.
Email us if you must.
New496 spelled out.
Spelled out,
Gmail.
etc. Yeah. So tune in next time. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.